Hey, what's going on everyone? So first and foremost, I cannot believe that Lectric gave everyone that bought a Lectric 3.0 the opportunity to get a free hydraulic brake upgrade kit. Now that's crazy in my opinion. If you guys seen my original review, even I stated that the brakes were pretty horrible on it, that they were very noisy, and thought that they needed to do something with the brakes, and I cannot believe that they went ahead and did this, because this, in my opinion, is worth at least $100 to $200 for this kit easily. And anybody that missed the deadline of July 31st for the free upgrade kit, they will be available for purchase. I'm not quite sure what the purchase price will be, but something to keep in mind. I'm gonna go ahead and install the kit here today and show you guys what all was involved with me changing these. Now, as a disclaimer, I'm no professional bike mechanic. I just wanna take you along the journey of me putting the installation kit on my bike. So hopefully you guys learned something. If you don't feel comfortable doing these modifications to your bike yourself, make sure you guys find a local bike shop, because the brakes are one of the most important parts of your bike. You definitely need good stopping power. So let's get into it. So in the kit, what you get is a set of front hydraulic brakes, a set of rear hydraulic brakes. Now the cables and handles and everything are already attached to the lines. All you have to do is pretty much bolt them on the bike, so you don't have to do any bleeding or anything like that. At least hopefully you shouldn't have to. And then in this box that's in this other box, you get a whole brand new front wheel with the new rotor, tire, tube, everything already installed. And that is crazy for them to send you a whole front wheel. But the reason that they do that is because there was not enough clearance between the spokes and the brake caliper on the old wheel to put the new wider hydraulic disc brake caliper. So they had to make the new front wheel about 5/8 of an inch skinnier. You can see how skinny the rim is there versus the old one. So it's about 5/8 of an inch skinnier. The tire is exactly the same size, so only the wheel is skinnier, but they had to do that, like I said, to get the new wider hydraulic brake on. The back will be fine, the back will fit, but that's awesome that they sent a whole brand new front wheel for it. So the first thing you're gonna wanna do is you're gonna wanna unwrap all this cabling here on your wires so that you can unplug everything. You have a motor cutoff switch that you have to unplug, and then you have to obviously take the cable off the old one. Now this is probably going to be the part that takes the longest, is rewrapping all these cables. So once you get them all unwrapped, you can see all your exposed wiring, which is also good to know. If you ever have a problem with your bike not turning on or error codes, you could have one of these connectors loose or come unplugged. So this is actually good to know, even if you're not changing your brakes. All right, now that I got all the cables unwrapped, we'll be on to the next step. And that is to unplug your motor cutoff connections. And when you plug these back in, you'll see there's a little tab on these. And there's also arrows. You have to make sure these arrows line up. You don't want to bend those little prongs in there. So when you put these back together, make sure they go back together the right way. And then what I'm gonna do is unbolt the brakes right here, leave this bracket on, and then go ahead and remove this whole assembly. Actually, I lied, guys. The next thing I'm going to do is actually take the front wheel off, because I think it'll be a little bit easier. This is a 15 millimeter. Just like that. I'll go ahead and take these out. And then the next thing you're going to want to do is pull your grips off. That way you can unbolt your lever and pull it off the handlebars. The left-hand side is your front brake, and the right-hand throttle side is your rear brake. I'm just going to give it a good tug here. The hardest part is getting the end caps out. Then you can loosen this up with a 5 millimeter and pull that off. And there's the old one. Now you'll notice on the new ones, it will tell you front and rear. So you don't want to try to put the rear one on the front, because your cable will be way too long. Just slide the new one on. I'm just going to snug this up for now so I can adjust it later. Then you reroute your caliper and your cable back down the same way it was, putting it back through this loop here. And I'm going to temporarily mount this on here with the 2 bolts. I'm going to actually use the new bolts. Now the next thing I'm going to do is install the front wheel, but first I'm going to go ahead and check this rim strip and make sure that it's covering all spokes on both sides all the way around the rim before I air this tire up, because you don't want any of these spokes showing, popping a hole in your tube. And I recommend doing this on new bikes when you get them as well. I've had a few where I lower the tire pressure, push the rim in, and you'll see this is folded over. Not on electric bikes, just different bikes in general. I've had that happen 2 or 3 times, so that could prevent a flat, especially when you have a 4-inch or 5-inch fat tire e-bike. Then I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of air in it, and if you want an awesome tire inflator, go check out the review I did on this one, or I'll put links down below in the description to a few different ones that I use if you're interested. As well as links for all my other tools and accessories that I use. Maybe I'll put a link down there for the little torque wrench kit that I use, and different tools that I think you might find helpful, and also all my e-bike accessories. Make sure you check them out. And if you use those links, I will receive a small commission at no extra cost to you. But thanks for the support. Let's get back to it. And then you want to make sure your tire's lined up as it's airing up, and massage it to get it even on that rim all the way around. I just want to put a little bit in for now until I get it mounted, but you just want to make sure that that strip there is even pretty much all the way around, because you don't want your wheel hopping going down the road. So now what I'm going to do is hold the brake lever tight while I tighten up this brake here. I'm just going to snug it up for now. And that usually centers it pretty good, because the brake pads on these hydraulic brakes will squeeze from both sides instead of one. And then you'll want to see if it's rubbing anywhere. So you want to get this rotor centered directly with this brake pad, so you don't hear any rubbing when you spin the wheel. You can hear it still rubbing. I still have some adjustments to do. And that's what you want when you spin the wheel. You don't want to hear any brake rub. Now, as a little tip of what I usually do when the rotor is bent, sometimes if you have a little bend in it, what I do is take a little crescent wrench here and just use that to unbend it. This rotor was perfectly straight, but I usually have that problem sometimes when I'm setting a bike up out of the box from the factory when I'm putting it together, because they get bent up during shipping. They do make a tool for that, but sometimes, like I said, I'll just use a crescent wrench and just tweak it a little bit to try to get it as straight as possible. Because if this is not straight, you'll have a hard time with this brake rotor not rubbing on this brake pad or this caliper. And then what you want to do after this is clean this rotor off really good with a rubbing alcohol or a brake cleaner to get any oils off of this from manufacturing, and the oils from your hands if you touched it. You don't want to get those oils embedded into your brake pads, and that's good to do when you first put a bike together as well. All right, everyone, so the front went pretty easily. Let's get into the back. Now, what I'm going to do first is I'm going to take a pair of needle nose pliers, and I'm going to take this little piece off that protects these cables. You can see the way it's crimped. I'm just going to squeeze it opposite the way it's crimped, kind of like circle it out, and then I was able to pull it right off. Then I'm going to go ahead and take this cable off of here, off the rear caliper, and then I'll be able to pull this cable all the way up through these holes here where it goes through the frame, and also through here and through here. I'll be able to pull that cable through. Now, when you put your new hydraulic brakes on, you're not going to be able to run a cable through these because it's already attached to the caliper, but no big deal. The wrapping is going to hold them all tight anyway. The only one I wish it would have been able to go through would be this one, but it'll be okay being on the outside. I'll just make sure I zip tie it really good there. Now I'm going to go ahead and take some side snips and snip off these cable ties. Be careful not to cut your wires. And make a note of how the cable is routed so you know how to reroute the cable. Then once you get those snipped off, you can go ahead and pull it through. Once you get that done, pull the other hand grip off. And then you use a 2.5 millimeter in this throttle here to loosen it up so that you can pull it off, and a 5 millimeter to loosen this and pull that off. And I already got the brake shut off disconnected on this side. Make sure you don't lose this little plastic washer that goes between your grip and your throttle when you pull the throttle off. Like I just did. Then I can go ahead and take the rear caliper off. I'm just going to take it off the bracket like I did with the front, and then mount the new one on. And I'm just going to put everything back on, basically in reverse of how I took it off. Just like that. And then once I get everything assembled, I will put this to where I need it before I tighten it down. And don't forget to re-plug this in. And then what you're going to want to do is just route this cable down along here. You want to go through this center bracket here, basically up through the same way it was. And then before you put any zip ties in, you want to kind of make sure everything's untwisted and it seems like it's sitting right. It looks pretty good like that. So now I'll pull this shim out. And like I said, you do not want to press the brake lever until your rotor is in here, because you don't want them compressing without nothing between there. Get that down on the rotor. And I'll go ahead and put the bolts in and then zip tie that. All right, so I actually ended up taking off this bracket as well and putting on the new bracket that come with the new hydraulic brake. The reason being is it didn't seem like the brake pads were sitting all the way down on the rotor, and this has been a known problem with both electric bikes ever since the 1.0. Mine were like this. Multiple other e-bike brands too as well. I've noticed on a lot of different ones that I've reviewed are this way as well. But what happens is that brake pad does not sit down all the way on that rotor. And then what happens is your brake pad wears from like here down, and you can see there's like an 1/8 inch of brake pad not getting wore down. Once that wears down enough, eventually that brake pad will touch and basically encase your rotor. But when that pad touches, it's not going to squeeze against your rotor anymore, and you're going to lose braking power. So what I did on my 1.0 before, when I took the brake pads off, I would sand this down with some sandpaper to get that lip off of there every so often, and then put them back in, and then it was good to go again for a while. Now with that new bracket on there, they are sitting down all the way on the rotor, and the whole pad is touching the rotor now, which is going to be better stopping power, and it's going to be better for wear, because you don't have to worry about that happening where it doesn't squeeze your rotor anymore. Now this is on my bike, not saying how it's going to work on yours. It should be the same. I thought the brackets were the same, but obviously there's a slight difference there. But they're definitely sitting down on there a lot better now. Just that alone is going to make this well worth the upgrade. And then just like on the front, you want to wipe off your rotor really well with brake clean to get all those oils and dirt off of there. And this is actually a good idea to do every so often also throughout, you know, after you put so many miles on it. And occasionally this is just a good maintenance idea, just to keep the dirt and grime off your brakes and out of your brake pads. I actually put a hole in the cloth, but you could see some of the dirt that I got off of there. You want to do that so that your new brakes bed in good. All right, I got everything wrapped back up real nice and neat. Now, one thing I want to show you is that I did not zip tie anything to these, because I wanted this to be able to slide a little bit back and forth if I needed it to whenever I fold the bike. So I did not zip tie them here. Everything looks really nice and neat. Now, one thing I love about hydraulic brakes is they're so easy to adjust. The front and rear pad both squeeze at the same time, so you don't have to constantly adjust the back brake pad with an Allen wrench. One thing I want to show you that not many people will probably know is with a little 2mm Allen wrench here, there's one little bolt right here in the center of this brake up here, and that's what's going to adjust your brake pull. So if you feel like your brake pads are wearing down and your handle's coming in too far and maybe potentially hitting your hand grip here, you want to just turn that screw in a little bit, and then it'll give you less brake pull. Or if you want to be able to pull the brake further in before it starts grabbing, you can loosen that up. But that's how you adjust the brake pull on hydraulic brakes on most bikes. And I'll put links down below to accessories and things like that that I think you guys might be interested in as well, like AirTag holders, cell phone holders, drink holders, and just things that I use on my bikes day in and day out. But let's get this thing off the stand and see how it performs with the new brakes. All right, everyone, here we go down a long, steep hill. This is the same hill I went down in my original review video using only the brake brakes. And when I got to the bottom, I said that I was pulling them pretty much almost as hard as I could, and they did not lock up the back brake. I'm feathering them here, trying to get them nice and warm. And I could definitely tell there's less power needing to be applied to use the brakes. Oh, yeah, I could definitely lock them up now if I wanted to, and that's just using the back brake, and they are very quiet. I mean, I can still hear them a little bit, but nowhere near, I mean, not even close to what the original brakes sounded like. Even after putting a bunch of miles on the bike, the original ones were still noisy. These ones are nice. Lock them up very easily if I want to. So cannot be happier with this hydraulic brake upgrade on the Lectric 3.0. Let me get some speed here and try the front brake. And I'm going to pull this front brake with just my finger. Very nice. No noise at all. Oh, yeah, I can lock them up. So now, just so you guys know, every Lectric 3.0 sold after July 31st, I believe. They are going to come with these hydraulic brakes already installed on them for the same price of $1,000, which is crazy. To have an e-bike with hydraulic brakes for $1,000 as good as the Lectric 3.0, that's just insane. Thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you found this enjoyable and helpful. Please leave a comment down below if you got this brake upgrade or if you're thinking about getting it. And it really helps my channel out if you give a like. Please subscribe, and I will see all of you around on the next one. Don't forget to check out those affiliate links below to get all your accessories or your Lectric 3.0. Thanks for watching, everyone. Whew.